Hello everybody. So in this screencast we're going to look at radio groups and radio buttons. So radio groups exist in radio buttons are you are familiar with them in like for example the web framework you have radio group you have radio buttons and it allows you to make a single choice. Okay, so here also you have radio groups. So if you say radio, right, so you have a radio button and a radio group. So basically what's a radio button? It's just a simple radio button. So basically let's add some radio buttons just to show you what that is. Here is another radio button. So if you have two radio buttons, let's say we anchor this one to the top and this to the left, and then the same story, we add this guy under, make this guy under this guy and just to the left. Now the issue is if they are not in a group, this means they are two independent radio groups. So basically this is not working because I deleted all the components that we used in the previous example. Let's run it again. So now when we go here, it did run. Okay, here we are, and you can see I can select this one and I also can select this one. Why? Because they are not related. To enforce the relationship between them, you have to add them into a radio group. Okay, so now you can see that they are not in a radio group. So now let's go to radio group. Radio, there's something called a radio group. Here's a radio group, right? I'll delete these radio buttons, I don't need them. So I have a radio group, right? And basically let's add this radio group to the top, and I know it's really small, and here's the radio group, right? So now I need to add radio buttons to be under this radio group. Of course it's very hard to do it in the layout here because it's really small. So what I could do is I could do radio button, right? And I can drag it here and drop it here inside the component tree, and notice that I'm dropping it under the radio group. So now it's a child of the radio group. Same story, I can do another radio button. Here's another radio button, and I'll add it under here. So basically you can see that under this radio group there are two radio buttons, right? Okay, so when I go here, yes, the constraints are set up, we run it. Now you could see that I have two radio buttons. When I pick this one, okay, I click here. Now if I click here, it will unselect the first one and then select the second one, right? So now because they are inside a radio group, they are related and you can only select one of them. All right, so that's the radio group, right? So now let's add more radio buttons just for the sake of experimenting here. Let's add another radio button. Where is that? Here, let's see, radio button. Let's add another one, make 3 of them. You can change its text, so I can pick this one. I can make it, for example, let's say red, the color red, and then this one, let's make it green and green, and the last one is blue, right? So we'll go here and it's going to be blue, right? So now I can also change their IDs. So basically I can go here, I could say radio button, this is the third one and this is the red one, right? And this one is going to be the radio button, this is the green one, and basically the last one is going to be radio button blue. All right, so basically what I could do is, what if when the user selects one of them, I want to change the background of the screen to reflect the color that they selected. All right, so I can do that. How do we do this? So we go back to the main activity, right? Now I need to bring in these radio buttons. Basically I need to bring in the radio group because that radio group probably has no ID. So let's give it an ID, radio group, right? So basically I give it an ID so I can retrieve it, right? So go here and I could say find I need a radio group equals find view by ID r.id.radio group, right? Okay, r.id.radio group. So I got the radio group. Now I could say radio group set on, here it is, on check change listener, right? So I can figure out, it seems that this is the one, right? So here it is, new on check change listener. And basically it gives you the one that is checked, the ID of the one that is checked, right? So I could do if the check ID is equal to r.id.radio button red, right? And then else if, and so on. So basically I can go and check the if it is the other one, and so on, else if, and so on, right? So basically I could check to see if it's the red, if it's the green, and if it's the blue, right? Okay, so now we have set up the event handler for the radio group. So when the radio group, any of them are checked, right? When any of these is selected, right? So when we run it, it's going to show red and green and so on. Any of them is selected, we want to change the background, right? The background color of the screen, right? So to do that, we need to get the actual background of the screen, which is probably the here. If you look here, it's the relative layout. So if you go and look here, the constraint layout, you have this constraint layout. We need to give it an ID. Let's call it the root view, right? And basically, and then let's give a capital V just to use the camel notation, right? So you have a root view. So basically what I need to do is to get that root view. We can say constraint layout root view. Okay, so now we could retrieve the root view, right? So we say root view equals find view by id r.id.root view. So basically that's our constraint layout, and I could try to change its color. So basically one approach is to just say root view dot set background color to color dot red, for example. So you have this capital red, which is red. That's the red, and I could change the other ones to be red, green, and blue similarly, right? So I can do that. Okay, here it is, 1, 2, 3, and then this becomes color dot green, and this is color dot blue. All right, perfect. So now if we run this, what's going to happen is that this event listener, when is it going to get triggered? It's going to get triggered when you pick one of these. So basically when you pick one of these, it's going to get triggered, right? Okay, so we run it. Here we are. So when you pick red, you pick red, it changes the background color to red. You pick green, change the background color to green. And you pick blue, you change the background color to blue. So that's this use case. The use case is that when you pick the background, when you pick the radio group, the radio button, or you check a radio button, you want this to change. In some cases, you don't want that. You want to read the radio group value later, right? So in that case, we will need to, for example, let's say we have a button. When you click the button, you want to change the value. So we go here, we add the button that we want to include here, and let's say we anchor to the right, anchor to the left, and maybe make it occupy here, and then maybe call the button is update. Let's call it update color. For example, we call the button update color, and the ID of the button is update color. So that's the ID of the button, right? Give it a little bit of a padding to the top, let's say 16. Okay, so now when I click the button, I want to go and read the value here and then change the color the color accordingly. So to do that, I really don't need to do the changes like this, right? So basically I need to first find the UID r.id button update color, set on click listener, new on click listener. So that's the on click listener for the button. So I need to set up the on click listener for the button, and I don't need actually the event handler for the radio group, because in radio group you pick a color, and then when you click the button, I want to change that color. Okay, cool. So basically what I'm going to do is, here is a different use case. In that case, here I need to do what? When the color is clicked, I need to check to see which radio group is checked, right? And then based on that, change the background color, right? That's basically what I want to do, right? So for me, how can I identify which one was checked? For that to happen, I need to get the radio group. So basically I'll keep that variable, I'll put it at the top, and then I'll say radio group equals this. So basically I have the radio group. I don't need all of that stuff, right? Basically I'll just maybe comment it out so that we can maybe reuse the color stuff from it, right? I commented this out. I'll move the code at the top here so that it's easier for you to see. So here it is. So this is the button. This is the radio group, right? So now look at the radio group. The radio group has radio group dot get check. See, here it is. Get checked radio button ID. So basically it's gonna get you back the checked radio button ID, right? So basically what I could do is I could say if radio group dot get checked radio button ID is equal to basically exactly what we are doing here, right? So what I could do is I could say, if you look at if you look here, I'll borrow the code we had before. So basically, I want to check to see what is this. So basically, I think radio group dot get checked radio button ID is an integer. You see here, it's an integer. So let me create an integer value here, and I call it check ID. Okay, equals get checked button ID. So I got the checked ID, and then I can copy this code from here to here, right? So basically what I could do is I copied the code where I have the check ID, and I'm verifying if it's the red, if it's the green, if it's the blue, and basically that's what I'm doing, right? So now this is a little bit different use case where I'm not listening to events at the radio group. So basically, see, I can change the radio group, nothing happens. But then once I click the button here, it changes the color, because this is what triggers. I need to read what the value of the radio group is, which one is checked, and based on that I update my colors. Same story, green, I click here update color, it changes. Blue, I click on update color, it does change. So basically now you have a good idea of how to manipulate and use radio groups, and how to integrate event handlers to them, and how to read the value of the radio group, right? So another thing also to look at is that how to manipulate maybe the text of the radio group. This is something maybe you will have in the homework or in one of the assignments. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.